It's true. I mean, Ho'oponopono sounds a little exotic, right? But the wisdom at its core is incredibly powerful, especially in today's world.
All right, welcome back everyone to The Deep Dive. You know, sometimes we stumble upon these ancient practices and you think, wow, this is so relevant even today. And that's exactly how I felt when I started digging into Hooponopono.
It's true. I mean, Ho'oponopono sounds a little exotic, right? But the wisdom at its core is incredibly powerful, especially in today's world.
It is, and I think a lot of our listeners are already familiar with the idea of, taking responsibility for your energy, manifesting your reality, that kind of thing. But Ho'oponopono takes it a step further. It's like a deep cleanse for your inner world, and that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Absolutely. We're going to unpack this ancient Hawaiian practice, look at how it works, and most importantly, how you can actually use it to find more peace and even healing in your own life.
Yeah. So first off, just to make sure we're all on the same page, what exactly is Ho'oponopono? I mean, the word itself, Hooponopono, it's a mouthful.
Right. Well, it comes from the Hawaiian language, and it essentially means to make right or to correct errors.
Okay, so to make right, to correct errors. So is it about, apologizing when you mess up?
Well, it can be, but it's actually much broader than that.
Yeah.
Traditionally, Hooponopono was used in a family setting, kind of like a guided process to resolve conflicts and restore harmony.
Oh, interesting. So like a family therapy session almost.
Exactly. But the form of Hooponopono that we're going to focus on today is a more modern interpretation, made popular by a Hawaiian therapist named Dr. Iakalaki Hulin.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. And his approach really emphasizes self-responsibility and healing from the inside out.
Okay, so inner healing, that makes sense. But how exactly does that work? Does it involve, digging up all your childhood trauma and stuff?
Not necessarily. It's more about recognizing that everything in your life, all the experiences you have, are a reflection of your inner state.
So, if I'm constantly attracting drama into my life, it means there's some drama going on inside me that needs to be cleaned up.
That's the idea. And Hooponopono provides tools for doing that inner cleansing.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But some of our listeners might be thinking, okay, this sounds kind of woo-woo. Is there any science behind this?
That's a fair question. And while Ho'oponopono itself isn't a scientific method, there are scientific concepts that can help explain how it might work. Like, for instance, neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, that's the idea that our brains can change, right?
Exactly. Our brains are constantly forming new neural pathways based on our thoughts and experiences. And with Ho'oponopono, the repeated use of specific phrases and affirmations can actually help rewire those pathways.
So, by saying these phrases over and over again, I can actually shift my brain from a state of stress to a state of peace.
Precisely. And then there's the element of emotional release. So often we try to bury our negative emotions, but that just causes them to fester and create more problems.
Oh yeah, for sure. If I'm holding on to anger towards someone, it's not like it magically disappears, it just eats away at me.
Right. But with Ho'oponopono, you create a safe space to acknowledge those emotions and let them go. And as you release those pent-up feelings, you create more space for healing.
And there's also the power of the placebo effect.
Right. Absolutely. If you believe that something can heal you, that belief itself can trigger positive changes in your body and mind.
Right. It's like the mind-body connection in action. And speaking of healing, there's that fascinating story about Dr. Hugh Lin working with mentally ill patients, right?
Yeah. He worked in a psychiatric hospital, and instead of directly treating the patients, he practiced Ho'oponopono on himself.
On himself? What do you mean?
He would look at the patient's files and repeat these Ho'oponopono phrases, taking responsibility for his own reactions to their conditions. And as he cleaned up his own inner world, the patient started to show remarkable improvements.
Wow, that's amazing. So he was basically healing them by healing himself.
That's the idea. It really speaks to the interconnectedness of everything and the power of taking responsibility for our own energy.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the practice. What are these magic phrases that we keep talking about?
So there are 4 key phrases in Hooponopono. And they are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
That's it. Those 4 phrases.
Yeah, simple, but incredibly powerful.
Okay, so let's break them down. I'm sorry. What does that mean in the context of Hooponopono? Because it's not like I'm apologizing for something specific.
No, it's more about acknowledging your part in whatever situation you're focusing on. It's a recognition that even if you don't consciously understand how you're connected to the problem, there is a connection there.
Okay, I see. So it's like saying, I'm sorry that this is showing up in my reality.
Exactly. And then please forgive me. This is a request for forgiveness. It can be directed to yourself, to others involved, or even to a higher power. It's about releasing any guilt or resentment that you might be holding on to.
Okay, and then thank you. What are we thanking for?
You're expressing gratitude for the opportunity to heal, for the process of cleansing. Even if you don't see results right away, you're trusting that something is shifting.
I like that. An attitude of gratitude. And finally, I love you. This one feels the most powerful somehow.
It is. It's the ultimate affirmation of healing and connection. When you say, I love you, you're sending love to the situation, to yourself, to everything involved. And that love has the power to dissolve negativity and restore balance.
So how do you actually do this practice? Like, is there a specific way to use these phrases?
It's very simple. First, identify the problem or issue you want to address. It could be anything, a relationship conflict, a health challenge, a negative thought pattern.
Okay, and then
take full responsibility. Now, this is important. It's not about blaming yourself, but about recognizing that if this issue is showing up in your life, you have a role to play in healing it.
So it's like saying, okay, this is my reality, and I'm responsible for clearing it up.
Exactly. And then simply start repeating the phrases. You can say them silently to yourself or out loud if that feels more powerful.
And you just keep repeating them.
Yeah, for as long as it feels right. And then the final step is to release and trust. Let go of any expectations about how the healing should happen and just surrender to the process.
So it's not about trying to control the outcome, it's about letting go and having faith.
Exactly. And you can do this practice anytime, anywhere. You can incorporate it into your meditation routine or just say the phrases while you're washing the dishes or going for a walk.
That's great. It seems so accessible. And I'm sure our listeners are curious to hear about some real-life examples of how Hooponopono has worked for others.
Well, we hear stories all the time about people using Hooponopono to improve their relationships. Sometimes, even if only one person in the relationship is practicing, it can still create a positive shift.
That's interesting. So, like, if I'm having problems with my partner, I can practice Hooponopono on my own, and it might still have a positive impact on the relationship.
Exactly. Because remember, it's all about cleaning up your own inner space. And as you become more peaceful and forgiving, that energy naturally radiates outwards.
That makes sense. And what about finances? Can Hooponopono help with money issues?
Definitely. A lot of people have blocks around money, maybe due to past experiences or limiting beliefs. And by using Hooponopono to release those blocks, they often find that their financial situation starts to improve.
So if I'm constantly struggling with money, it might be worth exploring what kind of subconscious beliefs I'm holding on to.
Absolutely. And Hooponopono can be a powerful tool for uncovering and releasing those beliefs.
And what about mental health? Can Hooponopono help with things like anxiety and depression?
Yeah, there are many people who have found relief from anxiety and depression through this practice. By using Hooponopono to forgive past hurts and release the emotional charge associated with those experiences, they create more space for inner peace and joy.
That's really inspiring. And I remember we got an email from a listener a while back who shared her story about using Hooponopono to heal from chronic back pain.
Oh yeah, she realized that her back pain was connected to anger she was holding on to towards her father. And by consistently saying, I love you, to that anger, she was able to let go of it, and her back pain eventually went away.
Wow, that's amazing. It shows how interconnected our physical and emotional well-being really are. Now, before we wrap up, I think it's important to address some common misconceptions about Hooponopono.
For sure. One of the biggest misconceptions is that it's about blaming yourself.
Yeah, I can see how people might think that. But it's not about saying, oh, it's all my fault, right?
Right. It's about taking responsibility for your experience, not for causing the problem. It's about saying, okay, this is showing up in my reality, so I have a responsibility to heal my connection to it.
That's a really important distinction. And another misconception is that Hooponopono is some kind of magic cure-all.
Definitely not. It's not about replacing practical action. If you have a leaky faucet, you still need to call a plumber.
Right. It's about clearing the internal blocks that might be preventing you from taking action or seeing solutions.
And finally, it's important to remember that Ho'oponopono isn't just about reciting words. It's about feeling the meaning behind them.
So it's not like a magical incantation where you just say the words and everything is fixed. It's about the intention and the sincerity behind the practice.
Exactly. It's about connecting with the energy of love and forgiveness and allowing that to work its magic.
So to sum it all up, Ho'oponopono is a powerful practice for creating inner peace and healing. It's based on the idea that everything in our experience is a reflection of our inner state. And by cleaning up our own inner world, we can create positive change in our outer world.
And that simple phrase, I love you, really is the key. It's a powerful force for dissolving negativity and bringing things back into balance.
So here's a little challenge for our listeners. Choose one issue that you'd like to address, and for the next week, commit to spending just 5 minutes each day practicing Ho'oponopono.
You can repeat the phrases silently to yourself or out loud, whatever feels right, and just notice any shifts that you experience.
And as you go through your day, ask yourself this question: what am I ready to release?
What burdens are you willing to let go of? What would it take to create more space for peace and love in your life?
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Share your experiences in the comments below, and feel free to share this deep dive with anyone who might benefit from it. And remember, the healing you seek is already within you.
And if you're interested in exploring this practice further, there are lots of resources available online for guided Ho'oponopono meditations.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.